Welcome into the latest edition of the Pump Fake, everybody. Jarrett Bailey here with you as always, and joining me today for the first time on the show. I'm very excited to have him from NFL Media. You can catch him very often on NFL Daily with Greg Rosenthal. Nick Shook. Buddy, you and I from relatively speaking, the same geographical area. You're a Cleveland guy. I'm a Pittsburgh guy. Did you go to Kent State?
I did.
You went to Kent State. I went to Slippery Rock. We hovered around, the same places growing up and whatnot. So very happy to have you here today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. It's great to be here for the first time. Hopefully it's the first of a beautiful friendship in podcast land.
Yeah, it is one of those things too, right? Where the combine's next week, the annual tweet up and the puffer vest and quarter zip convention. I'm very excited to go.
Don't forget the lanyards. Everybody's got to have their lanyards.
Oh, the lanyards too. Yeah.
Credentials.
I am, as I've grown a little bit older, I have become such an appreciative person to the puffer vest. The past 2 months, I've become such a vest guy, and I feel like I've wasted years of not being a vest guy.
I have such bad news for you because
oh dear,
I too understand the value of the puffer vest.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I was a child in the late 90s and my mother had bought me a silver Old Navy puffer vest because they were in style back then.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately must report that I found a puffer vest that I thought was perfect for me at Nordstrom Rack about 3 weeks ago.
Oh,
and I
nice.
put it on and I realized that
my
body... I am broad shouldered and barrel chested and I'm not as broad around the waist as I am around the shoulders. It just doesn't look good on me, but I'm happy that other people find uses for it because I totally understand the utility of it.
I feel like if I'm at James Gladstone's presser, he's gonna mistake me for one of his assistants. I think we're like around.
Aren't you doing math for me right now?
Right. I should be running analytics for him behind the scenes. So I'm very excited for that. It's gonna be a good time. Today. As you see on the screen, Nick and I are going to be doing a post NFL season quarterback draft. And then later on, before the 2026 season kicks off, we'll revisit this and we're going to be doing another one at some point. It might be with Nick, it might be with somebody else. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And then we'll, do a little bit of comparison and contrasting. You guys know how drafts work, so I'm not going to, dive into the, how it's going to be done. Nick, you're the guest. I will let you go first. Who's going to be the first quarterback you take?
Okay, I need some parameters here.
Okay.
And the big parameter is: are we building? Are we just playing one season right now, or are we building our franchise? Because I think.
Oh, you know what? That's a valid point. That's a good parameter to put in. Let's say going forward. So the parameter will be.
I would imagine, you're not going to spend a draft pick on a guy who's 37 years old.
That's correct.
That's
number
one overall pick.
All right, that's a good parameter to have. So build your franchise around for the next 5 to 10 years.
This is going to sound so chalk, and I acknowledge that, but I'm still going with Patrick Mahomes because I think when the situation around him is good enough, and this could sound like an excuse that you could use toward the argument for any quarterback, but the Chiefs fell apart this year because of the entire operation and the fact that he, for the first time in his career, could not carry them out of it. I mean, he had done little things over, the last 3 years to keep this offense moving. And they won so many games 2 seasons ago because of him. And the numbers never reflected it because our bar was set so high for him by the whole explosive Tyreek Hill offense of the early years of Patrick Mahomes' career. And when he became a superstar in Kansas City, but people, those who know when it comes to him that he was the reason that they were still successful, and it all fell apart. I think unfortunately, but very fitting fashion with him suffering the season-ending injury because it just kind of defined what the season was. Having said that, when he's healthy and everything around him is at least decent, he's still the guy I'm going to turn to more than any other to get the job done. There's just too much evidence in favor of it.
Yeah, even when things aren't decent. I mean, he won a Super Bowl throwing to Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. It's
like Mecole Hardman gets cut, and then you think oh wait, he caught the game-winning touchdown pass against the 49ers 3 years ago.
Yep.
That's the guy that the Bills only promoted because they were so desperate for receivers in the playoffs. They had nobody else. They needed a warm
up. Right. That would have been my first pick. And I'm still going to be chalky here with my first pick, and I'm going to take Josh Allen.
Yeah.
The thing, it's so frustrating being a diehard Josh Allen guy. Because especially right now. And that's not to say that he was perfect against Denver. The play at the end of the first half was bad to run a play there to begin with, but also like you can't do that and
worst
fumble in that
outcome.
situation. Absolutely, yeah. And I'm sure like when they're putting in, they're saying, yeah, we'll run a play here. They're not, thinking that, all right, yeah, Josh is going to fumble here and we're going to give Denver 3 points. But regardless, but you look at the talent or lack thereof that they've put around him at the receiver position. Since trading Stephon Diggs, it's just so infuriating that they're running out Brandon Cooks and Elijah Moore at some point this season. Chase Claypool was on this roster last year, by the way, for anybody who's wondering, in training camp. So like that's kind of where the Bills receiver situation has been since trading Stephon Diggs. Hopefully they make some sort of big splash in the offseason to give him a legit number one outside option. And in this new era of Joe Brady, I would like to see a little bit better usage of Khalil Shakir, whose ADOT over the last 3 years has consistently just gone down and down and down. And we've seen he can be a reliable guy when used, as more than just a screen merchant. So Josh's talents don't need, defended or anything. MVP for a reason. Dragged that like sad sack of a roster in 2024 to the AFC title game, 13 wins. And everything that he's doing right now, and the fact that he's been able to stay completely healthy through it, or at least not miss a game through it, is incredibly impressive. So Josh Allen is my first pick.
Yeah, I think these are the two easiest picks you're going to get.
Yeah.
Now is where it starts to get a little interesting.
Yes.
And with the third overall pick, this is the last time I'll probably announce this because I'll lose track of it because I'm bad at math.
Don't worry, I've got it. I'm keeping track of it right here.
Beautiful.
I'm your Huckleberry. We're fine.
We're going with Joe Burrow. And this is where I think you could go in a number of probably 2 or 3 different directions, but I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. And it all goes back to what I saw in his second game of his rookie year when they played the Browns in primetime. And I'm sitting in the press box and I'm just watching him handle the speed of the game as if he'd been in the league for 5 years. And we already know the arm talent. We know what he's done with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and everything else. But I am firmly confident in him. About as confident as I can be outside of in him as I can be outside of maybe Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen.
Right.
Yeah, that's about the list. It's just a health issue. That's the only thing that's really holding Joe Burrow back is his inability to stay on the field for significant portions of the season over the last few years with the Bengals, which, sometimes it's luck. Sometimes it's the way you approach it. I think it's a little bit of both. They've never really put a great offensive line in front of him. They've had an average to below average offensive line for most of his career, and they've dedicated their resources elsewhere, namely at receiver. They know that they need to retool a little bit. They still have that core in there. And we saw how important he was to this team as soon as he came back from injury this past season, which was an offense that was explosive occasionally with Joe Flacco, but was not consistent. And then he comes out there and he's just slinging all over the yard. Save for the one clunker they had late in the season, they were very explosive again. So I believe that when he's healthy, he can be the guy that we saw lead them all the way to the Super Bowl back in the 2021 season. If everything around, the rest of the situation, because football is the alternate team game, is right. And I would definitely build my franchise around him. In fact, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, Burrow would probably be my first pick.
Yeah, the offense being explosive with Joe Flacco that reopened a scar from Thursday night when Flacco just spammed the slant button to Jamar Chase for 16 catches. God almighty.
100 targets, Jamar. We're only looking at you, and they can't stop it.
The 16th catch, there's not a Steeler within the same area code. I don't care, whatever.
Where's Jalen Ramsey? Oh, he's gone again.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. I'm looking forward to whatever the Steelers do this season because it'll be different, but my goodness, man. I'm not going to go into Steelers rant here. We're drafting quarterbacks. I think that this is probably the last like chalky guy you can take here because I'm still going to take Lamar. Although my concerns surrounding Lamar continue to grow because of the injury stuff. What's it going to look like with a new regime with him? And we saw last year coming off the injury, like when he's not explosive with his legs, I mean, the effectiveness of that offense goes down pretty drastically. And that's not to say that he isn't a good thrower of the ball because he's made leaps and bounds in that since his rookie season compared to now. But the big part of Lamar and what makes him so special is that ability to run the ball and having to account for it. And when you take that away, it makes him much easier to slow down. So I'm still going to put him here, assuming that we're going to see that mobility get close, at least close to what it was. Because if it does, then yeah, he's still going to be one of the handful of guys that are going to consistently be in drafts and lists like this. So I'll take Lamar. But again, I need to see that mobility come back and see him be that dual threat guy that we've come to know him as.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking to see him play in a limited fashion.
Yeah,
especially when the Ravens were so desperate to win games late in the season. He just didn't look like himself. He looked, I don't know if I would say average, but what makes him special is that mobility, the threat to run always. I mean, it's impossible to defend the field against what is essentially a 12th guy when he's carrying the ball. Because then you have to defend the play twice, and he wasn't able to do that until the last couple of weeks, and that's when they kind of came back. You remember that thrilling game in Pittsburgh in Week 18. I mean, that final drive. Yeah, I talked to Isaiah Likely about this on Radio Row during the Super Bowl, and what he told me I thought was just perfect. He's just like, Lamar, I just looked at him and he had that look in his eye, like I just knew this is what's going to happen. Yeah. And then he said he blacked out when he made that huge catch on 4th down, which is funny. But
yeah, so did I. I was horrified.
Hey, one missed kick though, and all of a sudden you're happy.
Yeah, very much so.
It's an interesting offseason for Lamar and the Ravens in general, but I'm always kind of hoping to see the best from them just because he's such a special talent that I think goes underappreciated just because we're in this microwave society now in which we don't really take the time to fully value and understand and appreciate greatness like him because it looks a little bit different than what you've known it to be.
Yeah.
And actually with that in mind, that's what my next pick is going to be.
Okay.
Which is a guy who had the worst situation among all star quarterbacks around him. I'm going to say that now, and I'm going to die on that hill. It was Justin Herbert. Because my God, for all the bad offensive lines the Bengals have put Joe Burrow behind, this was a terrible situation for Justin Herbert in LA.
55 different combinations or something.
Oh my God. You lose both your, here's the way you could break it down. Go back and watch the Chargers. I believe it was against the Vikings, played a primetime game in which Joe Alt came back from injury. I already didn't have Rashawn Slater for the whole year. Just getting your right tackle back made them exponentially better as an offense than they looked without him. And then, of course, he goes down like another week later, and Herbert's forced to just play behind constant assaults from the enemy, from the opposition. And, he led them in rushing in multiple games. And it's not with designed runs. It's just because, oh God, I have to scramble. I'm going to make something out of nothing. He played with a broken hand. He played in an offense in which the receivers were good and just didn't get open, either because he didn't have time to throw or the scheme was just uninspired. And yet he still got them to the playoffs. Yes, I know his playoff record is bad. Yes, I know he needs to be better in the postseason. But I'm telling you, the ability and the talent that's there and the ingenuity, the creativity that he's able to play with as a quarterback when all things are falling apart around him makes him really special. And I would love to drop him into a better situation and watch everybody who hates on him and points to his playoff record as big negatives on his resume just eat crow, because he is one of the special quarterbacks in the NFL without a doubt.
Yeah, and look, I'm not going to pretend I haven't been one of those guys over the past couple of weeks who's been like, all right, man, like I need to see something in January.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of have similar things on my mind when we talk about Lamar, because hasn't been able to beat Mahomes or Josh Allen in the postseason. And there's going to be those questions. And
Lamar would have beaten him if Mark Andrews catches that ball. But
sure,
yeah.
Sure. And that's fair. That's completely
Team
fair.
Game.
Sure. And I think fair or not, as their careers continue to go on, if they continue to have those struggles, those murmurs are going to get louder and louder. And it's just the nature we are in this social media world where everything is under a microscope. But the first month and a half of this past season, Justin Herbert was on top of the world. The game in Brazil in week 1 against Kansas City, where he goes scorched earth. And it looked like he was, through the first 3 or 4 weeks, he was going to be one of those guys who was going to be at least on the podium for MVP votes. And obviously, he notoriously got one. Shout out to our buddy Sam Monson. But I want to see what he does this season in a new offense with Mike McDaniel that I think is going to be very fun. I look forward to seeing the pieces that they put around him. Not for nothing, but as long as there's a Harbaugh brother in the NFL, you can bet that Greg Roman will have some sort of job, as he does now with I believe he's on the Giants staff now with John. So I look forward to seeing what the offense looks like with Mike McDaniel, and maybe a little bit more of a speed aspect to it that we've come to know from a McDaniel offense. This is where things start to get a little bit dicey for me, because I think those top 5 are pretty good. Now, as we've put in the parameter of like building a franchise around, you died on your Justin Herbert hill. I think I'm going to die on my Trevor Lawrence hill, and I'm going to take Trevor.
I love this pick. This is a good pick.
I have long been a Trevor Lawrence defender, and 2023 and 2024. Well, most of 2023 was good. They were the number 1 seed at one point through 12 weeks. And then Trevor gets a laundry list of injuries, plays poorly in the final month of the season. They miss out on the postseason. And then by like week 3 of 2024, I mean, Doug Peterson was looking at resorts in Cabo, just ready to get out of there. And everybody was checked out. So seeing what he did this season, where he was playing at a legit MVP level. And if not for the play of Stafford in May, he's probably getting top 2 MVP votes. And seeing what, he helped Parker Washington become, seeing what he did in spite of injuries to his receiving core, it goes to show what a fresh coaching staff and a fresh view does for a quarterback. And he reached that full potential that we saw inklings of back in 2021 when they made it to the postseason. So as long as Trevor stays healthy, and as long as he has at least a competent group of weapons around him, and I'm looking at what they have now in Jacoby Myers and Brian Thomas and Parker Washington, Strange at the tight end, like they have a very good core of weapons, and Trevor played out of his mind, especially in the last 8 weeks of the season. So I'm ready to see him continue to grow. And I think having the stability that he hasn't really had before in his career with Liam Cohen and this offense, really like what the future holds for Jacksonville. And I really like what the future holds for Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, I thought he played the best football of his career down the stretch this season. And we kind of saw the generational talent that he was always advertised as when he came out of Clemson and went first overall in the draft. And that was exciting to see, because the physical tools have always been there. And he either hasn't been able to stay healthy, or the situation around him hasn't been good, or he struggled with accuracy and decision making. And it all just kind of came together in a beautiful picture this year. And I'm really excited to see
there's still those games that he has, like against Arizona, where he threw 3 or 4 interceptions. Like he still has those every once in a while.
Oh yeah, he's not. But
after that game, you look at his numbers, he was out of this world. Sorry for cutting you off. I did.
No, you're totally fine. And I really hope that he builds on this, because he was one of my most exciting quarterbacks to watch in the second half of the season. He was the reason the Jaguars went on that hot streak into the playoffs, and why they have tons of reason to be optimistic going into year 2 under Liam Cohen. And I always like it when a guy with that type of natural talent delivers at some point in his career, because it justifies those who always talked really highly of him. So yeah, I like him that high. I think there's a little bit of recency there, but I also think that if we see it again next year, then it's not recency anymore. It's just, okay, this is when he took the next step in his career. I think he finished 6th in my QB index, right behind Herbert, and a collection of other quarterbacks that, had really good seasons this year. So this is where it gets interesting now, because now we're in this second tier of sorts of quarterbacks, and it's projection versus results. And especially if we're starting from now going forward, we need to consider age. So last year at this time, a pick might have been here at this point would have been Jayden Daniels, but we know that he struggled through all of those injuries this past season. If it was just week 6 into this season, Baker Mayfield might have been in the discussion, because he was an MVP candidate at that point in the season. But if we're going over long-term results and what looks like what they could do moving forward, call me crazy here, I think I'm going to go Dak Prescott.
Oh, that's a good pick. That was going to be my next pick.
The reason I'm going there is because if you look at Dallas' situation over the last few years, and especially this past season, this is a team that we knew was not going to have a great defense, was going to need to throw the ball and be an offensive team to win. And he did it. He's done it each of the last 2 seasons. He's thrown the ball with incredible precision that is often undervalued in the eyes of the average NFL fan. And often, I think back to that week 1 loss to the Eagles, where he put multiple passes on CeeDee Lamb through the eyes of needles, and CD was dropping them. He had an excellent season throughout almost this entire campaign. He only had a couple of clunkers. He was one bad game in Buffalo a couple of seasons ago, 2-3 years ago in December, from potentially winning MVP that year. He's, despite being on the Cowboys, I think he's one of the more undervalued quarterbacks in the NFL. And I know that because when I put out the QB index, and I consistently rank Dak in that range, everyone's in the mentions like, what do you mean Dak Prescott here? Wait, how are you gonna go with him? He stinks because he plays for the Cowboys, so he's got that like reputation. He's a very, very, very good quarterback, and I would be happy to have him on my team at this point in this draft.
Not for nothing. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan. That was a spot-on Triple H impression. That was pretty good. Looking at the metrics and whatnot, he was top 10 in EPA, top 10 in success rate. And like you said, knowing every opponent knew, all right, Dallas is going to have to air this thing out. And he was still able to do it. George Pickens had a career year. CeeDee Lamb played really well, as he usually does. But considering just the lack of talent that they had defensively, and Brian Schottenheimer taking over at head coach, and a weird thing where Mike McCarthy wasn't brought back, and that whole thing was just weird last offseason. But I'm a Dak Prescott truther as well, so I love the pick. And I think if he was in a more stable organization, because like Dallas, yeah, obviously we know with Jerry and with everything that goes on with the publicity and whatnot, I think if he was just in a more like mellow place, he would get a little bit more love. And everybody just enjoys hating on the Cowboys whenever they can. So like I get that aspect of it as well. But no, Dak's awesome, and that would have been my next pick. So now I'm kind of left looking around to see who I'm going to take. I guess not really looking around. I'll take Drake May. I think that what he showed me. So not to pat myself on the back or anything, but last year, and I have amplified this so much. You talk about vanity. I predicted, I said that by the end of 2020, the 2025 season, we would talk about Drake May as being better than Justin Herbert. I think that he's at least in that conversation right now, considering what he did this season. And I know that everybody points to, it's the whole meme, right? Oh, the schedule was so bad in terms of, what New England had to go through. But they weren't just winning those games. They were beating the piss out of the teams that were bad. And Drake May was putting on clinics. And I understand against the Jets when he threw 5 touchdowns. I think he had more touchdown passes than completions, put on a show against Cleveland, put on a show against Tennessee. But he also went on the road in Buffalo in primetime and played extravagant. He also went on the road against the Tampa Bay team, who at the time was still one of the best in the NFL, and won on the road. I understand the playoff, the playoff run left a lot to be desired from his play on a personal level and on an individual level. But the things that he did in year 2, even going back to his rookie season, like some throws that he made, you could just tell, all right, yeah, they have a guy there. Finished second in MVP voting for a reason. I think just the pure talent that he has, New England is going to be set for a very, very long time. And looking forward to seeing how he only continues to grow.
Yeah, I thought that, we'll look back on this season. There's 2 specific points in which the analysis of May changes dramatically. It's when the end of the regular season arrived and when post game of the Super Bowl, because he did struggle in the playoffs, but he's a second-year quarterback who got all the way to the Super Bowl by being an explosive passer and a guy who was very good with his legs. In fact, it was kind of shocking as I'm sitting there watching the Super Bowl at Levi Stadium, and I'm like, he has not run like at all. And that was one of his weapons. And that's a credit to the Seattle defense. But I think it was a good learning experience for him and for these Patriots. And that does not really diminish what he did in the regular season. It does vault him up into that consideration for top 10 as we go into year 2. It's just a matter of how do you learn from that, build on that, and continue to progress with this team. But it was a remarkably impressive season for him in his second year. Yeah. All right. Now, so we're going through this list here, and we've gotten Drake May off the board. I should have kept a sheet in which I crossed everybody off, but we're doing this off the top of the dome. And
don't worry. I mean, I have a nice long list here if you'd like to hear some names that are still available.
Well, I think I got a decent collection here. Okay. I'm not going to go with the Super Bowl winning quarterback, even though he had a great year, because I'm going for projection here. And this is another guy, if he stays healthy and if his team could stay healthy, for the love of God, I think Brock Purdy's in this conversation.
Oh my.
And he's a guy that sound like Chris Collinsworth there. Here's a guy, when he's really good, he's one of the best. And he is remarkably accurate and can produce crazy numbers. I think about that shootout that they had with Chicago as an example. It's just the consistency, because then you can talk about the 3 interception game he had against Carolina that they won because Carolina couldn't score. And so it's just a lack of consistency, but I see the potential in there. And it's a matter of this team staying healthy across the board, really being able to maximize his potential as a quarterback. But I like him in this spot because of projection more than results so far.
I would not have taken Brock Purdy that high, but I do like he's a streaky guy, like you said. I think to the Indianapolis game on Monday night, where he just went off against like a quality team that was fighting for its playoff lives. Obviously, getting to see Fat Phillip Rivers in primetime in that game too was great. That was such a fun like
They
little
just cut
nugget
the sound
of the season.
and they just let the game sound, like the on-field sound, just roll for like 3 plays.
It was great.
It was great.
I've been notoriously down on Purdy. But the last couple seasons where he's shown like, yeah, all right, this wasn't, a 1 or 2 season like fluke, like he's proven to be a good franchise quarterback. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for the 49ers, because I think this past season was Kyle's best coaching job. And now with Robert Saleh gone again, what's it going to look like defensively? Fred Warner's a year older. Nick Bosa's a year older. I'm looking forward to seeing what the 49ers do in terms of putting more offensive pieces around Purdy, and seeing how he, can build off that and, try to get another deep run to the Super Bowl, because they've been one of those pillars of the NFC that's consistently playing deep into January. And you don't do that with just any guy at the quarterback position. So he's exceeded the expectations that I originally had, and he certainly deserves credit for that. There's 3 guys I'm looking at right now, and I don't know which one I want to take.
Spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel, indeed. I'm going to still take Jordan Love. And I know that some Bears fans are going to, point to the playoff game and be like, well, did you not see that? Yeah, I did. Caleb Williams made like one of the 5 most insane throws against Green Bay in the postseason that I've ever seen. But I still think when you look at playoff numbers, like Caleb had 2 to 3 really awesome plays, but as a whole, like playoff wise, he didn't play his best. And I would still take Jordan Love above him. I want to see, we talk about consistency. I want to see a little bit more consistency from Jordan Love. He'll have games like he did on Thanksgiving against Detroit, where it just bombs away and everything's working. I've always said about Love, he throws the ball with such an arrogance, and that's a compliment, where there's not a window there, but he's like, nah, I can still get it there. And I really he's one of my favorite players to watch because of that. He's got a little bit of a throwback to him. He's got a little bit of a Favre to him, really, which is pretty appropriate considering the team that he plays for. So I really like what Jordan Love brings to the table, and I hope that we can see the Packers get over this hump. They've run into, back-to-back wild card eliminations in the past 2 seasons. And I want to see them kind of take that step forward with this quarterback. And I believe in him enough to say that I think they will.
Yeah, I just need the consistency from him to be better. You can talk about the Thanksgiving game. You can talk about the primetime game against Pittsburgh, in which he went crazy in the second half. Sorry to bring that up again, but
it's okay. Steelers uniforms that game, by the way, got way too much hate. I enjoyed them, actually. The helmets I didn't like. I think the uniforms were pretty all right, though.
I respect a commitment to throwbacks and largely historically accurate throwbacks, although, as we all know, the proper uniform is the big patch on the chest and the number in the corner, but we have regulations that we must operate within. But that felt like a torch passing from Aaron Rodgers, the former Packers great, to the next Packers great.
Sure.
It's just that we don't see that on a consistent basis. I think about the game they lost in Denver, where he kind of folded in the second half. And I just need to see it more often. It seems like in the pressure moments, he has not 100% risen to the occasion. There were times a few years ago in the postseason in which he kind of announced his presence, in which we were like, oh, he's actually very good. They got another one. It just hasn't been as reliable over the course of a full season. And sometimes that has to do with injury. 2 years ago, he gets hurt in week 1 when the Packers are playing the Eagles in Brazil. Right. And so I just need to see it more consistently. That otherwise he would have been probably my pick there over Purdy, which you could kind of say the same thing. I kind of just made the same argument for Purdy. It's just that I think Love has a larger sample size, a little bit better situation around him, and hasn't delivered as much. So I see the potential, and I like the pick at this point. But Packers fans have hated me for the last couple of weeks because of where I ranked him, and I understand that. I hear that. That's fine.
Oh, where did you rank him? Just off the.
I put him. He was in tier 3, top of tier 3 at number 14. He was ahead of Purdy, but that's just there's something about, like, if I'm going into a clutch situation there, I don't know if I can trust him to deliver.
Sure.
I've seen some things that in past situations I would have believed him to do it, and he just didn't do it. And that's
the 49ers game in the playoffs a couple years ago didn't do him any favors. This past season, and look, there's a lot of things that went wrong against Chicago in the postseason, but at the same time, you're winning by what, 15 in the fourth quarter. You got to win that game, bud. So I completely get it.
Yeah, it's but that's the way that football goes. I mean,
sure.
It's like I said, it's the ultimate team game. This is where it gets interesting. You said you had one of 3 guys that you were going to pick.
I was staring at 3 guys. Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking at my final QB index real quick, just as like a reference point.
Yeah,
and I don't want to like deflate his value, but I can't take Darnold yet. You know who I can take though, because this is a forward-thinking exercise. I'm going to take Caleb Williams.
That's one of the 3 guys I was looking at. Yep.
You could call me crazy, but I'm going to take him. I thought that he took such great strides forward this season, and he has rare talents.
Sure.
And they're the talents that people talked about when he was coming out of USC, but then you thought back to the 3 turnover game against Notre Dame, and they're like, well, he can't, but he was dealing with an injury supposedly in that game. I see incredible arm strength and athleticism, and it's paired with this kind of, like you talk about Favre a little bit. There's a little bit of gunslinger to him where he refused to give up on a play and tries to make a miracle play, and that's just part of youth. When it comes together, though, it's so entertaining. Like, it's one of the most thrilling watches in the NFL. Yeah. Obviously, that was the Bears' story this season, was that they were the cardiac Bears. They would come back and win these games late. But I thought it really shined a positive light on him for being able to be the guy that could lead them there. It goes back to when they came back and beat the Raiders on the road. He get away with a missed field goal at the end there, but he led them to that win. I think that inspired them with confidence that they could do this, and they did it repeatedly. You think about Cincinnati, you think about the 2 games against the Bears against the Packers in Chicago. He just consistently did it, and he became one of those guys, which is shocking to me. If you go back to the beginning of the season, where you don't want the ball in his hands with the game on the line if you're the opponent, because he's going to break your heart. He's going to find a way to do it. A lot of that is because he can extend a play in a fashion that is almost unique to him and still rip a absolute missile to somebody. That's largely going to be accurate, even if he's falling out of bounds, a la Josh Allen. Yeah. And folks will look at his playoff performance against the Rams and the way he threw an interception that gave the Rams an opportunity to go win that game as a negative on his resume. But I'm fine with that, because I still think that DJ Moore didn't finish that route, that Caleb thought he was going to flatten that route out, and that it would have been open. But that's also what you get with the young quarterback. He's going to take those risks because he doesn't have the experience, in him at this point to know when to not take that risk. The physical tools, the natural talent, and the ability to deliver in the clutch are very valued by me. And I think it just really bodes well for his long-term projection. I would love to have him running my offense as long as I could keep him kind of within the confines of the offense a little bit sometimes.
He has, and this is an apples to oranges comparison, but like there's an element of like Steph Curry to him, where if there's like a clutch throw,
logo.
Yes, very much so. Like his play against the Rams, where he throws a touchdown to Cole Kmet, very much reminded me of that play where Curry is running around Chris Paul, like does like a behind the back crossover, and like Chris Paul falls backwards. That reminded me a lot of Caleb Williams. It's like Steph Curry meets Dude Perfect. That's what you get with Caleb Williams. And
it's a great comparison.
It's so much fun to watch. So again, it can be a little reckless at some points, but give me the dude who's going to do stuff like that. It can be a little bit reckless over just check down Charlie, play it safe all the time, because the guy who is going to take chances more often than not is going to put you in give you more opportunities to win, rather than a guy who's going to play it safe. So love Caleb Williams. I think the sky's the limit for him. He was going to be my next pick. And now we're down to the last of those 3 I was looking at. I'm going to keep looking at the list here to see if I'm missing somebody. I don't think I am.
It's the tough part of the exexercise is I think I swung and missed on somebody.
Yeah, like that would be really embarrassing. But as I'm looking at it, we're still, the reigning MVP has not been taken yet. But also, if we're projecting for 5 years, do I think Stafford is going to be around for that long? The bigger question is, do I care? Because I still think, like, how old is Stafford now? 30? He's going to be 38.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing quarterbacks play. I mean, Aaron's going to be 43 in December. We saw Brady play till 45. I think this is where we'll take Stafford off the board, and I'll take Matthew Stafford.
Yeah.
Do I think he'll be around for 5 more years? No. Do I think he can get 3? I do, especially if he's playing anywhere remotely at the level he just was throwing 46 touchdowns. So he's aging. Saying that he's aging like a fine wine is so cliche, but like this is the best version of Stafford, and he's been in the league for 16 years at this point. So everything that he has done in his Rams tenure, I saw a thing. This would be fun to run by you. When he retires, is he going to be remembered more as a Ram or a Lion? I think it's a Ram, no question.
Yeah, usually team success influences that, and he's been there long enough now. He's won a Super Bowl there. He nearly got to another one this year. Yeah. Unfortunately for Lions fans, he will be remembered as a Ram.
Right. So it's very much like Barry Bonds with the Pirates and the Giants. He's a giant. Yeah. I'll take Stafford here. I think he can still get 3 quality years out of him, and if he wanted to play longer than that, I think he could. Even if it's only 2 years. If the Rams get, I expect them to be pretty aggressive when it comes to getting secondary help this coming off season. If they can get another piece there with the offense that they have, and as long as everybody stays healthy for the most part, this is a team that's going to be hovering in that Super Bowl conversation. As long as the quarterback's there, as long as McVay's there, they're going to be one of those teams.
Yeah, I agree. Projection wise, who cares if he plays 5 years at this point, just because his football is that good. I mean, think about the Rams and what their outlook would be like without him, which you could take any team and be like, well, if we take their franchise quarterback out of it, it obviously becomes bleaker. But he just feels like he defines the Rams, and especially in this season in which he won MVP. This was his best season. Despite his age, he throws with incredible accuracy and ego sometimes, like the no-look throws. And you're just like, you think so many guys could try that and it would go terribly wrong for them. And it doesn't for Matthew Stafford. He's so experienced. He still has the talent. And he's a thrill to watch. But that leads me to the next group of 3, because I'm looking at 3 guys right now. They all have their knocks against them for one reason or another. And I'm really split between 2, but I'm going to go to the Super Bowl 60 winner, Sam Darnold.
There we go.
And then I think you're going to know who the next 2 guys in that group were. We'll get to that eventually. Darnold has taken so many steps forward over the last 2 years that has transformed him from a guy that we remember from seeing ghosts with New York to a guy who, when put behind a decent to better offensive line, can pick you apart. And we often undervalue and overlook his athleticism because he's not a guy who's going to scramble all the time, but it is a sneaky tool for him. It actually helped him in the Super Bowl, just slipping some sacks and picking up some key scrambles. We could have knocked him for him crumbling in the playoffs last year, but then he just went out and answered all those doubts over this playoff run. Yes, he didn't have to do much against the 49ers in the playoffs, but he did have to do a lot against the Rams to beat them in what was essentially the Super Bowl. And he did. He came through. He delivered. And again, I think the arm talent that we saw coming out of USC that it made him such a high pick has finally, borne fruit. Like now there's actual product from it that teams can point at and be like, this is why we trust him. I think back to that shootout against Tampa Bay. I think that was week 6 where him and
Baker Mayfield
went toe to toe. And it was
both on the throwbacks too.
Oh yeah.
Which I've got here. We got the Tampa Bay one right there. And we got the Seahawks one right
that's
here.
The throwback matchup of the year right there.
Yeah, there you go.
It was one of the games of the year, at least at that time. And a lot of it had to do with Darnold, who great arm and can be incredibly accurate and even when you pressure him, sometimes he makes plays now, which would have broken his brain in the past. He's had a great couple of steps forward over these last 2 years.
How worried are you about the loss of Clint Kubiak?
A little bit. I thought that the whole reason that the Seahawks went and got Sam Darnold was because of Clint Kubiak. But I also think that it's something that you could replicate in the right scenario, because this is, again, a team that they might take a step back offensively, but this is a team that won a Super Bowl in their defense. Yeah. And as long as they can protect Sam, he's got a good receiving core, provided they can bring back Rashid Shaheed. That would be really nice for them. I still think that he's going to do well with them going forward.
I agree. I was so anti-Seahawks this past off season, where when they traded Geno Smith, I was like, all right, I can see what they're doing. They're kind of have a soft rebuild coming. And then they signed Cooper Kupp and they signed they trade for Cooper Kupp, right? Or no, he was a free agent.
Yeah. The Rams moved on from him. Yeah.
Right. And then they signed Sam Darnold, and I was like, all right, well, now I don't know what you're doing. And they proved me wrong all season, obviously. So I'll take the mulligan on that one and wear the egg on my face.
As we all do.
As we all do. Nobody bats 1,000 in this. I'm going to take Jayden Daniels here.
I like this.
With like a very big, like, I'm like pausing for impact because I'm scared of what the injury stuff could turn into. Like, he's a very like thin quarterback who, I think, was it Nate Tice coming out of or going into the draft a couple years ago where he said that Jayden Daniels plays quarterback like he's in an episode of Jackass. Like, that's that checks out because he's constantly, he's calmed down on it a little bit when it comes to the hits, but like at LSU, like he was just getting beat to hell. And then the scary elbow injury this past season against Seattle, like gets banged up again against Minnesota. Like, I want him to stay healthy, and that's the biggest thing. My biggest concern with him is, can you stay healthy? So we'll see with Washington this year, man. That's Dan Quinn's seat is now as hot as any in the NFL, which is crazy considering they were just in the NFC title game a year ago. But such is life in the NFL. If Jayden stays healthy and they can get actual factual receivers in that room that aren't, Traylon Burks and Chris Moore, and
Burks had a couple of nice moments.
Burks had a few good games, but I think it was more so by necessity than like, all right, yeah, we really believe in Traylon Burks. So if they can get a big name in there, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where Brandon Ayuk lands. We'll see. But if Terry McLaurin stays healthy, if Jayden Daniels stays healthy, I like what Washington can be. But those have proven to be two very big ifs.
Yeah. I was so disappointed by what happened for him and to him this year.
Yeah.
He never should have been in that game against Seattle when he suffered the elbow injury. It was the second of 3 injuries that he suffered this year, and it just derailed their whole season. It was a great case study of how important a quarterback is to a team, but it was also a team that I think, going into the season, I compared them to the 2008 Browns, which came off of a 10-6 season in 2007.
Shout out Derek Anderson.
Yes, it was a veteran-laden team, and Commanders fans bristled at that significantly. They were just like, what do you mean? We're not the 2008 Browns. We just went to the NFC Championship game. And I'm like, yeah, but you're a veteran-laden team, and the only difference is you got a young, promising quarterback, and that's exactly how it played out for them, unfortunately, and a lot of that had to do with Daniel's injury. But you've left me with both of my 2 picks of that group of 3.
Oh, okay.
And now I have a tough time deciding.
I have one in my head that I think you'll take, considering the group of 3 that you referenced and Sam Darnold is in it. So I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, but you know what? I'm going to go against the grain here because I think you're going to take him right after I don't. I'm going Baker Mayfield.
Oh, okay. I did not think Baker was going to be your guy.
He's a streaky quarterback, but when he's on, he is one of the most enjoyable watches in the NFL. There was a reason he was an early season MVP favorite. He's a guy that he's a never say die guy. Like, he will lay it all on the line to help his team win. The competitive fire in him is among the strongest in the NFL at any position. I think back to that game against Houston where he goes on a long scramble and it looks like he hurts his knee. He immediately grabs at it, and then he hears, I think it was CJ Gardner-Johnson was talking trash to him.
Yes.
And he stood up after being like writhing in pain and got in his face. Like, the switch just flipped on him like that. And that's like kind of scary if you're an average human, but like from a competitor standpoint, that's exactly who you want to play for. You'll run through a wall for that guy. And he's got a strong arm. And he, you know what he can do as a passer when he's on. The problem is that he's streaky and he'll struggle with accuracy when he's on a bad streak sometimes. And I think he needs to kind of even that out. But they were dealing with a lot of adversity just in terms of personnel losses this season. So, in a vacuum, I'm throwing him out there. I know it might come with a pick, but he also might throw 2 or 3 touchdowns and run for 1. And he's going to do everything he can to lead my team to victory. And I value that.
I love Baker. He certainly would have been a guy that I would have liked to have had. Streaky is the best word to describe him because he'll have games like he did against, why am I blanking? Oh, it's escaping me right now. But the game in which Tez Johnson had that really long touchdown catch, that was early in the season. But regardless, he'll have games like that where he doesn't have Mike Evans, doesn't have Chris Godwin, but him and Emeka Egbuka start off the season really hot. But he'll also have games against, the Miami Dolphins where he's throwing, meatball marinaras to Ashton Davis as really bad interceptions. So that's the one aspect I want to see Baker clean up. And that we can say that for a lot of quarterbacks in this tier where it's like, man, they can be really good, but when they're bad and they're off, they're really off. So But Baker, I mean, he's been one of the stories of the NFL for the past 3 years since going to Tampa. Do you remember who was the quarterback that he was, supposedly battling? Was it Kyle Trask and Baker Mayfield a couple years ago? It was like, oh man,
pet project, Kyle Trask.
Yeah, was it second round pick, right? Kyle Trask.
I don't know if he was a second rounder. He might have been. He definitely was a guy that had a challenging collegiate career before he made it into the NFL, and they basically drafted him just because they're like, we need a backup for Tom Brady, and he's been in that. Yeah, second round pick, 64th overall in 2021. Yeah,
absolutely.
Can you imagine the idea of Baker having to compete with him? Yeah, that's pretty nuts. By the way, the answer was week 6 against San Francisco.
Yes,
that was big Tez Johnson catch.
Yes. So like he'll have games like that. It won't just be games. Like he'll have 2-month stretches like that, as they did. But then when you lose, what was it, 6 of your last 7 of your last 9, and you get play like that from Baker in a lot of those games, it is worrying. Even when they beat Carolina did they beat Carolina that game?
Yeah,
the downpour in week 18.
Yeah,
it's not like he played great. So
no, that was an ugly game, but that also was like very typical of where the Buccaneers were at that point in the season.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, so the names I'm looking at right now, I'm going to go, I think we're going to get our first 2025. Are we going to get our first 2025 rookie off the board? We might.
Oh.
I'm going to take Cam Ward.
Okay. All right. Okay. You're going to leave me with all 3 of that trio.
Oh, goodness. Man. All right. So, in terms of Cam Ward, going back to week 1 this past year, he made 3 to 4 throws in that game where I was like, oh yeah, he's got it. It's just unfortunate that all of them were dropped. And if you remember, like they kept cutting to Cam Ward's dad, who looked like he was about to jump the barricade and like punch all of the Titans receivers on the spot. He made so many plays this year that nobody cared about because it was the Titans and they were horrible. But that play where he's running to his right, he throws it all the way across his body to Eli Amenor in the end zone. He just had so many, like, I call it the white chocolate highlight reel plays, because I keep seeing Jason Williams highlight cut-ups on TikTok now. I was like, man, he was awesome. Cam Ward's rookie highlight reel is a lot like Jason Williams, where there are so many. Just how in God's name did he make that type of plays that he made? And I think with Brian Dable especially, I think that's a really good pairing, because Cam Ward strikes me as a guy who likes to be coached hard. Brian Dable will coach him hard. And seeing the success that Dable has had in the past, obviously, and helping Josh Allen develop early on with Jackson Dart, even though, that kind of hit the fan when Dart kept getting injured. But I think that Dable's a good guy to get in there at offensive coordinator. They just need some actual weapons around Cam Ward to throw the ball to. But I think, and just seeing the types of throws he's able to make, that's someone I look at as saying, all right, box scores kind of be damned right now. When you watch his ability to throw the ball, he's got a bright future.
Yeah, one of the most talent-poor offenses in the NFL this past season.
Yeah.
Pretty frustrating when you throw a number 1 pick into that, but sometimes in the rebuild, that's where you start. And I did like the way that he kind of got on the same page with Io Manor and Jim Dike, and like you like the idea of Chio Okonkwo in that offense, but they need serious reinforcement to really maximize his talents, and I hope that they will. I agree 100% with the whole pairing with Brian Dable. I think I don't like to look at coordinators and look at their past results with specific quarterbacks as proof of what they can do with somebody else. Like, I don't like to point at the whole Josh Allen, Brian Dable thing, but it is a big feather in his cap.
Sure.
Different quarterbacks, but I think Dable has the experience from his many stops both in the NFL and in college, and he's one of the best equipped to take advantage of what, like, the raw talent that Cam Ward brings to the table. And you're right. It's the highlight reel throws that we remember. It's also the ability to overcome the mistakes that he makes that most rookies will make. And there's a sense of leadership with him that I think the Titans lacked that they've gotten in their quarterback now. So I like that projection there.
Speaking of the Titans, did you get a call to be on their coaching staff?
I did want to tweet about that because I saw the assorted picture of all the bald guys, and I was like, oh my God, it's my people.
I was gonna say, bald with beards that might as well be the new team name.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the comparison I still get the most is Kyle Long and he is.
Oh yeah, I can certainly see that.
Not in coaching, but yeah, that is hilarious though. That left me though with my option, and I didn't take him earlier because I saw some weaknesses in his game that were exposed by certain defenses going back to week 1. But it's Jared Goff.
See, I thought that Jared Goff was going to be the one that you took when you took Baker.
Yeah, and that's who I was split between, was Baker and Jarrett. And I thought, well, between the two, I would probably want Baker because the situation's got to be right for Goff to really hit his peak.
Sure.
You got to be behind a good offensive line. He's got a stable of good receivers and running backs. And I speak to the whole defense is getting after him. The game plan, the blueprint to beat him was delivered in week 1 when they played Green Bay, and they just pressured him and moved him off his spot. He is like he's in the mold of the quarterbacks of the previous generation. Like, what was the way to beat Tom Brady? Is pressure up the middle, like get in his face early, force him to get uncomfortable. And that's kind of the same thing for Jared Goff. So there's a weakness in his game. There's a flaw that you can target if you have the right personnel defensively, but you can't argue with the production. I mean, consistently over the last 3 years, he's thrown for like 4,000 plus yards. And whether it's been a team that has been building out of their running game or they've had to lean on Goff, they've frequently done it. It fell apart down the backstretch of this season because the running game disappeared because the offensive line wasn't good, because they, lost their center to retirement. When he tried to unretire, he couldn't pass a physical, and they had other injuries at guard, and they had all these changes, and they just couldn't gel, they couldn't solidify, and that hurt the entire offensive operation. But when he's at his best, Goff is among the best, with that same arm talent that saw him go first overall a decade ago to the Rams. And I have liked his redemption arc with the Lions. I think that he's kind of revived his reputation, and there's no question that he's their quarterback. For me, from a value perspective, if I know I'm building the situation all hypothetically around him pretty strong, then I'm very excited to get Jared Goff at this point in this draft.
Jared Goff is the Matthew Stafford of Tua Tagovailoas. That's how I feel about Jared Goff. I want to see it a little bit more in the postseason. I feel like the game against Washington in the divisional round last season left a really poor taste in a lot of folks' mouths, where it's like, all right, they won 15 games, and then you're at home against a Washington team, and he just throws a couple really bad picks. I think
he is known to do sometimes.
Yes, and I think you analyzed that very well. The game against Philadelphia this past season, where it looks like he's never touched a football before. It's like, dude, my goodness.
They quit in that game. In the fourth quarter, they flat out said, we are done with this. We want to leave.
Yes, it's cold. I want to go home. So
we are a dome team.
So, like, Goff, you said it perfectly. In the right situation with a good offensive line, good set of backs, good weapons around him, he's proven that he can really produce. But, if you take away one of those infinity stones, things tend to go downhill a little bit. So I was perfectly fine not taking Goff. And now if we would have gotten to like the mid-20s and he was still there, sure, I would have taken him. But yeah, I was perfectly fine not taking him there. Goodness gracious.
This is very interesting. You're going to take here. Another group of quarterbacks. This is where we're getting into the weeds now.
Yeah, we really are.
What number are we at, by the way?
We are at 18.
Wow. All right.
So I'll take CJ Stroud here.
Okay.
I think that the poor playoff performances, again, when you're in that big of a stage and you play poor, he played very bad against Pittsburgh and the defense put up more points than the offense did. And then he played very bad against New England. It's completely understandable for folks to have setbacks because of that. But going back to the beginning of the season, when the offensive line was just god awful, you go back and watch that Rams game where it was just a free for all up the middle and getting pressure on him against Tampa Bay, where the Bucs just kind of had their way. Got better as the season went on, but with Stroud, I do think that there is a conversation of like, all right, is he ever going to be able to recapture that magic that we saw as a rookie? And in terms of that, I don't know, but there is talent there. And in terms of, the guys that we have left on our list, I'm taking him over all of them right now. So I'm hoping for a bounce back for him. We're hearing it's that time of year where content wise folks are like, all right, maybe we'll talk about a potential CJ Stroud trade. I don't think that's going to happen.
That's funny because that's actually what I saw pop up on the Cleveland radio airwaves yesterday.
Oh, there you go.
I would absolutely trade the 24th pick for CJ Stroud. I was like, yeah, so would everybody else. And the Texans wouldn't take that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he had two very bad postseason performances, but he's also led the Texans to playoff wins in each of the last 3 seasons and is his good play has far outweighed his bad play. So I will take him here and be pretty comfortable with that. I think we can each do one more, then I'll kind of round out we can do 10 apiece.
Yeah, that's good with me. I think that's tough. It's tough when you talk about the overall sample because like that rookie year was so good.
Incredible.
Like, I mean, and his greatest strength was his accuracy, but then you saw in year 2 behind a terrible offensive line that you can damage, if not break the brain of a young quarterback. Like he had no time to throw in his second season. Bobby Slowick's offense, which was getting all this praise, including from me in Stroud's first year, he ends up losing his job as a result of it. Stroud's accuracy being his greatest strength becomes an issue for him behind this offensive line. He starts making throws and decisions that are under duress that are just very uncharacteristic of him. And since then, he's kind of bounced between the two. They change offensive coordinators. Nick Caley comes in as a first-time play caller. It doesn't get off the ground, perfectly. They kind of find their stride middle to late portion of the season. They go on this hot streak. And there were some games in which CJ's explosiveness as a passer was just remarkable. It's just that it's not consistently there right now. And it's what's difficult when you analyze their situation and try to figure out how to improve it is where is the problem? Because the offensive line gave up half as many sacks this year as they did the year prior. So you can't pin all the blame on them. You could look at the receiving core and say no Diggs because he left in free agency, no Tank Dell because of a gruesome injury that he'd suffered the previous year. Nico Collins goes out late in the season and that hurts them in the playoffs, right? Dalton Schultz was a big part of this offense. Sometimes it's fun to have a tight end be a big part of your offense, but it's never really encouraging when a tight end is your focal point of your passing game, which is kind of where they got to at one point in the season. They had a couple of young rookie receivers that they were relying on in this offense. The running game was non-existent. And so how much can you pin on CJ? Is he in a better situation, the quarterback that we saw in his rookie year, or is he somewhere in between? I believe in the talent. I believe in the potential, which is why you're spending this pick on him. And I would agree with you on that. I just need to see a little bit more because the inconsistency became a little alarming this year.
I agree. All right. So this will be your last pick. Again, we'll each have 10 guys here. And I'm looking at our list here. There's going to be two fan bases that when we release this are going to be so pissed off. And it's going to be very
which
funny.
One do I want to anger less? Because they're both pretty vocal, but one's way more aggressive. And so not out of fear, but out of respect and out of belief in potential and the results that I've seen when everything's going right, I'm going with Jalen Hurts.
All right.
And here's my issue with Jalen Hurts. Let's get the bad stuff out of the way first. All right. Jalen Hurts has in him a competitive desire that you see among the greats in sports. It's how he moved on from Alabama to Oklahoma and became a star there. It's what convinced Howie Roseman to spend a second-round pick on him and shock the world by doing so. And yet it is also his greatest downfall at times, especially in an offense that is uninspired, that is bland, that lacks any identity. Jalen Hurts will receive the snap, and it seems as if as he drops back, he is focused on making the perfect throw and the perfect play. And he'll wait for it to come open, and he'll wait too long, and he'll hold on to the ball and just float around back there before throwing a dirt ball at the feet of AJ Brown or something, or throwing it away or scrambling for a gain of 2. This offense was clogged. It was constipated. It was stuck. And that's actually a term that was used to describe their offense 2 years ago. Right. And yet they have not been able to unclog it, at least over the course of a full season. Not necessarily because of their quarterback, but he's at his best, and he was certainly at his best this season when they went no huddle, when he didn't have the time to think and try to make the perfect play. And he just made the play that his instincts told him to make. And it was frustrating that they didn't do that more often because it was clearly their best mode of operation, both for their quarterback and their entire offense. But I battle all those struggles, like the challenges that I've seen him endure over the last year. I fight with those in my head because I think back to that Super Bowl he played against the Chiefs the first time around, and he was so good. And he was so good for much of that season. And I see the potential as a passer long-term if everything else can be worked out. Now, I worry that they're going to move on from AJ Brown because of the offensive struggles that they've had over the last couple of seasons, and they don't want to deal with the drama anymore, which would hurt them in the long run, especially for a guy like Jalen who can put it on AJ Brown. But I think, if we're doing this in a vacuum or I can really manipulate the circumstances around him, I like him as my quarterback because of the playmaking ability, the way they can run with him, design runs, scrambles, all that stuff, and the arm. Like, he still has the tools. It's just that the offense, they need to figure it out in order to really maximize his potential.
Very much so. Yeah, he's become one of, if not like the most polarizing quarterback when we have these kinds of conversations in terms of like where you put him and whatnot. Um, like they beat the Bills this past season. And he didn't have a completion in the second half. Like it's incredible, like the things that defense was able to accomplish for them this year. And offensively, like there was a very long stretch where they didn't score more than 20 points. And with that talent that you have with AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith, and a good offensive line, for that to be your weakness, it's pretty inexcusable. And I know that Kevin Patullo kind of became the fall guy, but there were throws and there were situations this past season when you look back at it and say, all right, this is more on the quarterback than anything, because there was a play there to be made. So anyway, I talked about this with Todd Haley last week. There's a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts this year, because if there's any organization that has proven time and time again, hey, we can move on from a head coach or a quarterback and we'll still be fine, it's the Eagles. So I'm intrigued to see what he looks like in 6 months time once we're back on the field, and I'll be very intrigued to see what that looks like. And that brings us to the last pick. There are two guys that I have in front of me that one of them will be the pick. And I will go with Justin Fields. Just kidding. I will take I will take Tyler Shuck.
I love this pick.
I love
projection, baby.
I love what he did down the stretch where New Orleans became like the hottest team in the NFC South. He had a really good game against the Jets, really good game against the Titans. A really good game against Tampa Bay where he just ran all over him. And like the tight window throws that he's making, like, were genuinely very impressive. So some people would have liked to see Jackson Dart here, and I wouldn't fault anybody for taking Jackson Dart because he's a gamer and I like Jackson Dart, but I think he got a little bit more of a high profile, like under the spotlight type of stuff, because the Giants always do. They're a big market team. They're going to be in prime time more. Nobody really cared about the Saints because they're a bad football team. But the things that Tyler Shuck did on the field this past season, I was really impressed with. I didn't have any, long-term thoughts about Tyler Shuck being, the answer for the Saints, but he did more than enough to show that he should be the guy in 2026. And if he can carry some of that, or what we saw in the back half of 2025 into this season, they might have their guy.
Yeah, I it's funny because I think I ranked him as my highest rookie this year. And the reason was, everyone's like, well, what about Dart and the rest of the group? And I'm like, that's fine. But I also know that a lot of you didn't watch Saints games because who's watching the Saints? I understand. But when you did watch the Saints, you just saw a guy who looks the part. You saw a guy who both physically looks the part and also in terms of composure looks the part. The speed of the game was never too fast for him, which typically you'll see that for rookies. They'll make mistakes because of the speed of the game. He made mistakes mainly because he just trusted himself a little bit too much. But I mean, accurate passer, confident in this offense. Maybe the time that he got on the bench to start the season really helped him. I thought he got better later in the season. And he also was not afraid to use his legs as a weapon. And the Saints' hot streak, a lot of that depended on Shuck's performance. And by the end of the season, I was like, I think they got their guy. Yeah. Now, that could all derail with one bad season. I mean, we just talked about CJ Stroud and the uncertainty now, right?
Right.
But I really like the direction that he's headed in. And I think that despite my skepticism about making, Kellen Moore your next head coach in New Orleans, I was wrong, at least at this point, because look at what he's done with his quarterback. It's the perfect pairing. And I think that I wouldn't say the sky's the limit, but they have a lot of promise with this duo of coach and quarterback going forward.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that looks like. The Saints have felt like a team that have been in transition for like 8 years. They just haven't ripped the Band-Aid off.
Drew Brees, man, ever since Drew Brees retired, it's been this weird middle ground, and then Sean Payton steps down, and I think they're finally getting back on track.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm a Steelers fan, and my team has very much been in that same role where it's like, all right, I guess we'll try Russell Wilson for a year. What the hell? Why not?
The Pittsburgh Mercenaries, that's what they are now.
Very much so, yeah. they might continue that if Aaron Rodgers decides he wants to come back. I'm very intrigued to see what the WCW 2000 version of Mike McCarthy and Aaron Rodgers looks like in Pittsburgh.
Just get a better fitting suit, please.
Yeah, that was the press conference itself very good. The way the suit
restrictive.
Yes, very very much so. All right, that wraps up our quarterback draft. Let's talk about some notable names that we didn't have on here that people are going to yell at us about. The Broncos fans, they already hate me. Bo Nix was not taken.
Yep, they hate me too.
It's okay. I don't know if you knew this, but I had to get a tattoo last summer because I lost a Broncos bet on my leg. So that is forever.
I hope it's in a hidden place.
It is, yeah. So I mean, this goes back to Peter Schrager when he was still with Good Morning Football, predicting that they would make the postseason in Bo Nix's rookie year, to which I said I will get GMFB tattooed on my body if they do. And by God, they did. So,
oh my God, I don't know how to feel about that, because that's as a company man, that is our show. I was hoping that it was a Broncos like throwback D logo, but then as somebody who grew up a Browns fan, that would be sacrilegious.
Yeah, very much.
Tough spot for you. Tough spot. Hey, but you know what? At least you didn't have to get a certain part of your body pierced like a certain radio host in Pittsburgh did.
Shout out to Andrew Filipponi. Yeah, so it's on my thigh, and now I have a great story about it. So Broncos fans will always have that over me. But yeah, you and I seem to be in the same boat when it comes to Bo Nix.
Yeah, I see the marriage with Peyton has produced great things for them in the first 2 years, but I mean, analyzing his season this year, I mean, it's been Broncos fans and Packers fans, as I mentioned, for the last 2 weeks because of where I ranked Bo Nix and where I ranked Jordan Love. Like I put Nix at 18, and he's behind Baker, he's behind Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy, he's ahead of Jalen Hurts and CJ Stroud. And I feel like recency always kind of pollutes our analysis of these things. And look, Broncos fans, I know multiple that I talked to in week 7 who were like, yeah, Bo hasn't been very good this year. The offense hasn't been very good. You beat the Jets in London 13-11.
Dude, in a game that they should have lost.
Exactly. Like, and I'm not talking about QB wins here. I'm talking about the way the offense looked in that game. It was putrid. Okay. And he did find his stride late in the season, which is part of why they got all the way to the AFC Championship game. It's a bummer that he wasn't able to play in that game, and it kind of leaves the whole thing unresolved. But I see the potential. I'm a big fan of consistency. Can I depend on you? And him and Sean Payton didn't feel like they got on the right page until December, maybe late November. And it worked wonders for them, but I needed over a full season before I can move him up. And I think at that point he will take the steps, but the steps forward. But I also think that he does have a somewhat of a ceiling on him in which he can only get so good. He's never gonna, I think, be an elite passer, which is fine. You can win a lot of football games that way.
I agree, and I think that with that marriage, it's like having if you're driving a car. If Bo Nix is driving a car, Sean Payton also has a steering wheel in the passenger seat and can help navigate him out of.
He's got the pedals. He's got the pedals.
Yeah,
like the drivers in cars. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I do think that with Bo Nix, I have my setbacks with him as well. He's exceeded the expectations I had for him coming into the league. I didn't think he would be even this good, and I'm fine saying that. But yeah, I'm perfectly fine not selecting him here. We talked about Jackson Dart a little bit already. No Daniel Jones for either of us. Obviously, he's coming off the Achilles. I would assume that's probably your biggest setback.
Yeah, and it was 1 year of proof. A great pairing with Shane Steichen, but I just have a hard time taking a guy with half a season of excellence. What
are they doing this year? Do you think they just bring back Daniel Jones and hope for the best? Run it with Riley Leonard until he's healthy?
They pledged a lot of confidence in him and belief in him as their long-term answer, and they were like willing to ride out the injury. But the thing is like, this is a regime that's still on the hot seat. Like, I don't know how Chris Ballard has held on to his job.
Pretty impressive, actually.
It seems like he's been close to getting fired for the last like 3 years.
Not quite as impressive as Duke Tobin, but still impressive.
Yeah, well, there's different circumstances in play in Cincinnati. A lot of it has to do with money. And I wonder then, do they approach the season? Because if you can't count on Jones, I don't think that they like Anthony Richardson. I don't think there's really
he's gone.
I think that's very much on its near its end. So it's like, well, what do you do to answer that situation?
Maybe he'll be the quarterback of one of our teams this season.
Oh God, maybe probably yours more. Although I think that yours is a good reason to go after Malik Willis. Yeah, I don't know what they do. I feel like they need to get a mercenary, a bridge guy in the meantime, just to keep themselves afloat, because I mean, look, they were competitive with Gardner Minshew a few years ago, with Steichen at the controls, but he's kind of on the hot seat now too. So it's going to be interesting to see what matters more for them: trust in the process, patience, or desperation. All those things are going to come into play here in how they conduct this offseason.
If we would have gone like to 20, if we were done like 13 apiece and really had to get into the weeds on this, there's been a lot of conversation about Tanner McKee, the Eagles backup.
Oh God, no. What, week 18 against Washington? Watch that game. Do not put money in him. Don't believe the preseason hype. It was atrocious.
Yeah. There was, a certain piece this past week saying that my Steelers should trade Nick Herbig for Tanner McKee, and I almost
that would be a fleasing. Howie would win another one.
I almost threw a brick through my computer. What are you talking about? I don't like that.
A terrible call.
Yeah. Other names, none of us put 9 on the list. I'm not surprised there. No Michael Penix, no Geno Smith. What a fall from grace for Geno Smith.
I like how we call him 9.
I know we don't. It's just his name now. I think that is very fun. But yeah, Bryce Young might have had a case there. What do you think of Bryce Young?
Consistency. It's way too volatile. You can throw for a career high yardage total and an overtime win over Atlanta, and then just have absolute clunkers on both sides of that. It's just not consistent. I hope it gets there, but I'm not confident that it's necessarily going to get there.
No Kyler Murray for either of us either.
Yeah, because I feel like Arizona kind of told us what they thought about Kyler Murray when they moved. They soft benched him for Jacoby Brissett last year, and the offense looked better with Jacoby Brissett.
Do you see the potential of him having a Geno Baker Darnold-esque resurrection somewhere else?
You know where I had him going in our QB index, like potential trades I'd like to see? I was like, send him to Miami. This is before they hired Halfley.
Yeah.
I was just like, send him to Miami. That feels like a good fit for him.
Just do a Tua Kyler straight up swap. Like they did with Sam Bradford and Nick Foles back in the day. Just do that.
But then Arizona, when they get Tua Tagovailoa, can do what the Utah Jazz did when they got Lonzo Ball, which is we just wanted the picks. We're actually going to waive him.
Whatever gets you the picks at this point, if you're Arizona, I have no idea what they're going to do at quarterback. Is Clayton Tune still on that roster?
No, he's on the Packers roster, and he played in Week 18 against was it the Chargers, and it was not good.
Okay, good. Bright future there in Arizona. With
I believe that was one of those weird fever dream games that I watched in Week 18. No, it wasn't it was the Vikings that they played. Week 18 included Trey Lance starts and Clayton Tune starts.
Oh God. It's so bad.
6 for 11 for 34 yards and a 16-3 loss to Minnesota.
We need to think of something to do for Week 18 with all of these games to at least make it fun. Because
if you like chaos, it's already fun.
I mean, I guess, but it turns into like week 2 of the preseason, and that's like during the preseason I'm into it because all right, we've got games to watch and things to talk about, but in early January, I don't really want to see Trey Lance play.
Hey, try writing what you learned about a game that includes.
That's brutal. Yeah, that's hard. I don't envy you in that regard. Buddy, this is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on. What can the good folks check out from you coming on the NFL media side of things?
Oh, I mean, you can always go to NFL.com, Shook, for anything that I write. It's news coverage right now. It's QB Index stuff coming next week. Combine coverage next week as well.
Are you going to be in Indy?
Combine team? Yes, I will be in Indy.
All right, cool.
From Wednesday on. The all combine team, in which I have nailed some sleeper guys in the past. Pat on the back there, victory lap of sorts. That'll be out the week after the combine. I think by Monday following the end of the combine. So check that out too. That's always one of my favorite things to do. I'll be in Indy. I'll be in Lucas Oil Stadium watching guys run drills and picking out my favorites ahead of the draft. So keep an eye on that. And then the last piece of promo, 2 things. One, I also do another podcast outside of NFL Daily. It's called the Gridiron Podcast. Iron is in brackets. It's terrible for SEO. My fault. But we do NFL and Formula One, which is the grid is Formula One and the gridiron is the football part. It's a weird combo podcast, but it's what we like to do. Just posted an episode, new one yesterday. You can check that out on all your favorite podcast platforms. And if you like virtual football, the Kent State Golden Flashes are up to number 3 in the nation in the 2030 season in college football 26. And that's in an online league with 16 people. So come check that out on Twitch.
I expect an invite and that I will import Slippery Rock into said league.
That'll be a college football 27 exercise.
All right.
Although I will say, I was just beating the crap out of Michigan with Kent State. That's where we are in 2030.
Okay.
And I heard the PA announcer announce scores out of town. I'm not kidding you. And they said Slippery Rock. And I was like, wait, they're not even in the game. How do they have this audio in this game?
I'll give EA credit there. They try to make the college football experience as authentic as possible, which I will applaud them for. Yes. So in some way, shape, or form, my alma mater is in the game, and I'm very happy about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. We are soaring towards 7,000 subscribers, which is great to see, considering that we just put this exclusively on YouTube. So thank you so much for tuning in. Todd and I will be back tomorrow. Maybe we'll get a little bit of an update from UFL camp. Oh, that's why I thought of Clayton Tune, because Clayton Tune was on the UFL Aviators roster, and then he signed a futures deal. Not there anymore. Yeah, so there you go.
Big loss for Ted Ginn.
Big loss for Ted Ginn and Captain Munnerlyn and Todd Haley and company down in
Captain Munnerlyn. All right.
Captain Munnerlyn's the defensive coordinator. There you go.
That's awesome. I love that.
So appreciate everybody for tuning in. Again, we'll be back tomorrow on the show. Please be sure to like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. And we'll be back tomorrow on the Bump Fake.